Although some people are of the belief that humans have effectively conquered all corners of the world, there is still plenty of vengeful wilderness throughout the planet, which provides more than enough danger to swallow an individual without so much as a trace. Jungles, mountains, and forests have all claimed hikers, stragglers, and individuals who simply became lost, leaving behind nothing but a mystery and a fate that was never resolved. So today, here at Unexplained Mysteries, we will be diving into 3 disappearances of individuals claimed by the untamed wilderness and their subsequent discovery or lack thereof. National Park Service finds Rudimoda, hiker missing for 38 years. Even the most experienced of adventurers take an enormous amount of risk when they venture out into the wilderness, and it's impossible to know for sure what dangers or freak accidents might lurk around the corner, especially for those who prefer to wander intentionally into the dangers of the beaten path. Rudimoda was one of these brave explorers who unfortunately met an untimely end as the result of misfortune met on a ski mountaineering trip. Moda was a West German man living in Fort Collins, Colorado at the time of his disappearance in 1983. He was an avid outdoorsman and was experienced in navigating the backwoods of the area, so when he embarked on a 2 to 3 night ski mountaineering trip, nobody thought anything of it at first. He left for the Zimmerman Lake trailhead near Cameron Pass with intentions of crossing Thunder Pass into Rocky Mountain National Park, but his journey was never completed, and his roommate reported him missing when he had not been seen or heard from 6 days later. Search and rescue teams were immediately dispatched to attempt to locate the missing man alive, but over a foot of fresh snow had recently fallen, greatly slowing the rescue efforts and dimming what hope the team had. The team searched for 4 days, with increasing desperation, and although they were able to find signs of the missing hiker and locate his food cache, some gear, and a snow cave that he had likely made to seek shelter from the snowstorm that had passed through, they were unable to locate the man himself. Eventually, the searches were called off, and although fresh efforts were made once the snow melted in the spring, no further clues or remains were ever found. His family in Germany were left without answers or any form of closure regarding his disappearance, making the mourning process even more painful. However, 38 years after the fateful hiking trip that cost Moda his life, a hiker passing through avalanche debris near Rocky Mountain National Park's Skeleton Canyon area noticed skeletal remains among the disturbed rocks and vegetation. An investigation began to attempt to determine who the remains belonged to, but was closed shortly after its inception due to the National Park Service's redistribution of resources once a massive wildfire began to encroach on the west side of the park. Once the snowmelt retreated from the area the following year, they were able to reopen the investigation and recover the remains, as well as ski equipment and personal items that belonged to Moda. His identity was confirmed by a German forensic coroner, and the National Park Service worked with the German government to quickly repatriate the remains so that Rudimoda's family could provide him with a proper burial after almost 4 decades of mystery. Moda's disappearance is a reminder that, although millions of people traipse through national parks every year, at the end of the day, they are nothing more than untamed wilderness, and it's entirely possible for a body to go missing within its depths and remain unrecovered and unknown for 38 years or longer. Amazon jungle pilots. One of the most dense and unforgiving places in the world is the Amazon. There is simply no telling how many countless lives it has claimed throughout the years, and one of the most at-risk groups in the area are the pilots who fly small planes through it. One of these pilots, Jeziel Barbosa de Moura, encountered technical difficulties with his plane in December of 2018 and radioed his fellow pilot and friend Paulo Tridade to tell him that he was going to attempt to land at Independencia, a small landing strip near a defunct gold mine that had been abandoned for over 15 years. Tridade begged him not to attempt it, as the jungle had already taken over the strip, but de Moura radioed back. No, I've decided to land at Independencia. I can't make out anything anymore." Those words were the last that Tridade heard from his friend. Currently piloting a flight himself, he changed routes in mid-air to attempt to help Demora, but was delayed by an intense Amazonian downpour that occluded his vision. When he finally arrived at the abandoned airstrip, there was no sign of his friend, and subsequent government searches of the area turned up nothing before they were called off after 4 unproductive weeks. Demora had been flying 2 groups of Amazonian Indians from their village to the town of Laranjal de Jari. One of the members of the flight was an elderly woman named Sepi Acurio, who was one of the last speakers of her native language, Acurio, anywhere in the world. Part of the reason why the path of the flight was a mystery and why the government was likely forced to give up the search is the fact that flights across the Amazon are usually rather clandestine, especially when it comes to piloting flights between indigenous communities. Air is one of the only ways to get around the dense and dangerous Amazon, but because the small landing strips scattered throughout indigenous communities are often crudely created and do not meet safety standards, they are not able to be registered. And because pilots can only officially take off and land from registered landing strips, this means that they must lie to air traffic control about their paths to provide transportation for people and supplies in these areas. This flawed system means that when flights go down over the jungle, it is often almost impossible to know the flight path that the pilot was taking at the time of the disappearance, making search and rescue operations ill-fated from the start. The flights, which are already incredibly dangerous, are made more so by the necessary deception. One pilot, Paulo Nortes, told the BBC that you have to fly quietly, with the transponder sometimes turned off, and the flight controllers and government don't really know about these flights. They're not really being monitored by any controller. There are a few airstrips that are like roller coasters, and you must be aware all the time of the weather, not to get inside a heavy storm, because it plays with your plane as if it was a paper plane, like a toy. Because of these discrepancies, many pilots and their passengers have been swallowed up by the dense and dangerous Amazon rainforest, never to be seen again. Activists have made many appeals to the government to help fix up the indigenous landing strips to provide a safe and sanctioned place for air taxi pilots to land. But until these changes are implemented, it seems that the Amazon will continue to swallow pilots and their charges whole, leaving no sign that they were ever there. Boys found in the Amazon after missing for 4 weeks. Although navigating the Amazon rainforest is perilous at the best of times, it's perhaps the most dangerous during the rainy season when navigation is almost impossible. So when 2 young indigenous boys disappeared into the jungle during the rainy season and were not immediately recovered, it seemed that their survival looked grim. Glauco and Gleison Ferreira, at 8 and 6 years old, disappeared into the Amazon in February after getting lost while trying to catch small birds. Once their absence was realized, hundreds of volunteers from the area spent weeks combing through the incredibly dense and marshy jungle in search of the boys, but to no avail. The emergency services in the area called off the official search after a week of no results, but the local residents continued undeterred, although with each passing day the chances of the boys' survival dwindled, and hope grew fainter and fainter. However, after almost a month with no results from the search and rescue operation, the boys turned up due to a chance encounter with a local woodcutter from a village 6 kilometers away from the village where the boys disappeared from. The boys heard the sounds of the wood being chopped and called out for help, leading the man to follow their cries to where they lay on the forest floor. When they were discovered, they were highly malnourished, severely weakened and covered with skin abrasions as a result of their long, harrowing ordeal. They were immediately transported to a regional hospital and then a larger hospital for treatment to combat their state of starvation. Upon their discovery, the boys reported to their parents that the only thing they had consumed during their ordeal was rainwater, having had nothing to eat in almost a month. Their discovery was nothing short of a miracle, as the Amazon jungle during the rainy season has been known to take individuals much more capable of survival than 6 and 8-year-old boys. But what do you make of these interesting disappearances? Be sure to let us know your thoughts in the comment section below, and help us by growing this community while working to solve these unexplained mysteries. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.